Hey there, travel beauty chasers, and welcome back to Chasing Travel Beauty with Stephanie. Okay, so the other day we were talking about solo travel and the reasons why so many people don't do it. And as I was sharing, I was saying how, I stay at hotels. And so some of you may have been really surprised to hear that I have never, ever stayed at an Airbnb. And so as I was thinking about this, I said, okay, Stephanie, you are like encouraging people to do something they've never done before. You're challenging people to get outside of their comfort zone, but yet you have never been to an Airbnb. So I said, you know what? Let's make 2026 the year that we challenge our limitations, that we challenge those things that, these little places that we've made just to keep us safe, right? These little safety zones. Let's challenge those this year. So I want to talk about hotel versus Airbnb, right? So for me, I said, well, I pick hotels. Let me tell you why I pick hotels. So I stay at hotels because I'm going to get a consistent, predictable, reliable place to lay my head no matter where I am in the world. So, for me, it's either, a Bonvoy property or a Hyatt property. I know what I'm going to get anywhere around the world, consistent. And as I mentioned before, the number one thing for solo travelers, especially female solo travelers, is safety, right? So we want to feel safe. And so this is why, I pick a hotel and it gives that reliable experience. But I also am like, I want all the amenities. Call me bougie, whatever you want to call me. I like to be taken care of. So I want the amenities. I want maid service. Like, I don't want to have to make up my bed. I want fresh towels every day. I want a spa service if I choose to use it. I want a restaurant, at least one. I want room service. All the ways that I can be pampered, I want it. I always say, oh, I got to make sure they have a gym. But if I'm completely transparent, like, okay, what? Maybe 20% of the time I actually use the gym, especially when I'm doing international travel. Like, I do so much walking that it makes up for it. But I said, you know what? In 2026, even if I'm in a walkable city and I'm going to do a lot of walking, I'm still going to go use the gym. And so I've been to one hotel this year and I use the gym. This is my plan. Every stay, use the gym at least once, and then I will be winning. So I feel like, again, 2026, let's stretch ourselves. And I get it. So when people are staying at an Airbnb, I feel like, cost is likely the biggest driver. And so for me, when I'm staying at a hotel, like, I'm there for a week, maybe two max, right? But beyond that, the cost of a hotel, becomes like, not feasible. Right? It's like that then eats up such a huge chunk of your budget. And like, when we go travel to places, for me, the biggest thing is about experiences. Like, what are the experiences that I can have there? So for sure, we don't want to use all of our money just in our accommodation. So I totally get it. But I'm curious, if you're an Airbnb person, what are the other reasons why you do it? So again, I get cost has to be the thing. I also understand, it's more maybe that local immersion. So, people are opening up their homes in regular neighborhoods, right? So you get this opportunity to be with the locals. But what are some of the other reasons? I would love to hear from you guys. Like, when you're staying at an Airbnb, why are you choosing it? Or is it really, that cost factor? And so it's interesting, Michelle Obama has a podcast, and her brother is always like advocating for staying at an Airbnb. He was like me, a non-Airbnb person, and now he is now a fan, and he's been doing Airbnb more and more. So you know what? I'm going to do an Airbnb in 2026. So I said, okay, we're solo travelers. If we're going to try Airbnb, like, what are the things we need to consider? And so doing a little bit of research, talking to my good friend ChatGPT. I told you ChatGPT was my travel buddy. So I was like, okay, I want to take on this personal challenge, right? Because for me, um, travel is not just about the vacation. It's about like, how am I going to grow? How am I going to expand? How am I going to learn? How do I, challenge some of my maybe assumptions? And so maybe I've made assumptions that like an Airbnb is less safe, right? And so I said to ChatGPT, what are all the things I need to keep in mind that can actually give me that same, predictability, reliability, and consistency when it comes to Airbnb? So there were 5 top things that ChatGPT mentioned. So I'm going to share those with you in case you're like me. You're like, okay, I like to save a few dollars if I can for my accommodation, so I can splurge on something else while I'm visiting a location. So the first one it said was choose places that have a lot of recent ratings and recent reviews. So not just the overall rating score, but things that are more recent. Because obviously it's like a place could have been great and then it went downhill. So you want that recency factor. Totally makes sense. Then it says look for super hosts with a long track record. So a super host is a person who has consistent high ratings. They have a lot of stays, so a lot of people have been there. And then they're also a person who's been very responsive. So it doesn't mean like everything's been perfect, like people didn't have any issues while they were at that person's place, but the person was really responsive, and whatever the issue was, it got quickly resolved. So we want to look for a super host with these great experiences and reviews. The third is we have to read the negative reviews carefully. So I do this before, staying at a hotel. So I first look for the rating, and it has to be at least, so if I'm doing a Bonvoy, it has to be at least a 4.2 or above. And then once it meets that threshold, then I go read the negative reviews. And here, basically what we're looking for are patterns, right? Because, everybody's got their own thing. Someone said, oh, the bed was too firm. Well, maybe I like a firm bed, so that's not a problem. But if they say things, I remember a hotel I was going to book, and it said like there were, I don't know, at least 10 to 15 people mentioned that the elevator didn't work. Now, if this was all in a short period of time, like over a week, you go, okay, well, it just broke down that week and they had to get it fixed. But this was like over a 5-month period that people kept commenting that the elevator didn't work. And so if you're like carrying luggage, having to like lug it upstairs is not going to be convenient. So I was like, you know what, this sounds like a hotel that may not be as, one, responsive to guests as they should be in fixing that problem. 2, fixing things quickly. So if I have an issue and I'm there, maybe they're not going to respond. And the fact that, when people posted this, there was no like response from the property saying, oh, thank you for making us aware of this. We fixed it. Made me say, okay, I'm not going to stay at that property. So the same thing we want to do for Airbnb. So we want to look at what are those reviews saying. So people say like, it was not clean, there was cat hair everywhere. So if you're like allergic or something like that, like this is something you want to take into account to say, this may not be the property for me. And then the fourth is location, location, location. So if you're like me, when I go, especially anywhere in Europe, like I want to be somewhere walkable. And really for me, most places around the world, I want to be somewhere walkable. Some place where, there are cafes and restaurants, and I don't have to literally get in an Uber every time I want to, go out or experience something, that there are things within that local area. So being centrally located in an area that's well lit. So if you want to, be walking about at night, you'll have that comfort to do so. So that was number 4. And then number 5 is, again, like messaging the host before you go. So maybe they're not a super host, but you want to see what's that communication going to be like. So they don't yet have your business. I think of it like, when you think about if you ever had to like interview someone for a job, like the best you're ever likely to see that person is on the interview. Or think about it like dating. Like the first time you go out, like That's when they're going to look their nicest. They're going to be on the top of their game, right? So, okay, message the host before you seal the deal. Are they responsive? Do they get back to you in a reasonable amount of time? If they don't show up well before you've even booked, things could change, but it's highly improbable that that's going to be a great experience. If you need them, they may not be responsive. So I'm going to take these and for sure consider them and say, okay, these are my best practices. This is what I'm going to look for, because in 2026, I'm trying to be the best version of me that I can be. I want to say goodbye to any limiting beliefs. I want to say goodbye to any habits that may no longer serve me. I also am semi-retired. So if I can save some money and still have a great luxurious experience, that is going to be amazing. So what about you? What are you doing in 2026? And what's your view? Hotel, Airbnb? Who's willing to take the challenge with me? If you have never stayed at an Airbnb, who's willing to do it in 2026? Let's do something new. Let's get out of our comfort zone. Let's try something different. Let's have a new experience and see how it expands and grows us. And who knows, we may absolutely fall in love with Airbnbs and it becomes our new way of travel. You just don't know until you give it a try. So I want to hear from you. Are you team hotel or are you team Airbnb? I hope you're going to be like me and try something new this year. Well, friend, we have reached the end of our time together today, but there is no need for sorrow because you guessed it, I want to see you tomorrow. But until then, keep chasing travel beauty wherever your journeys may take you. Thanks so much. See you soon.